So, to make a long story short, I, 28 female, am getting married tomorrow. My dad is not insanely rich or anything, but is pretty well off, more so than the average person. He is 69 years old and is dating a 23-year-old woman. They've only been together for 4 months, but already she's moved in with him and they're engaged. I know that she's with him for his money, and I knew it from the start. This isn't typical daddy's little girl jealousy or anything. She is genuinely just with him for his money. I've even asked her before if she thinks she would be with my dad if he couldn't support her the way he does, and she literally said no. He's always buying her stuff and is currently paying for her college. She threatens to leave him if he doesn't buy her the thing she wants, every time she wants it. The whole thing is a nightmare. It would be different if she were at least nice, but she isn't. When I first met her, I wasn't indifferent with her at all. I actually tried really hard to be nice, but right off the bat, she was so passive-aggressive and rude to me. I've caught her wearing my deceased mom's jewelry and clothes before, and all she says is, "What? They're mine now," which pisses me the duck off. I used to have a family birthday party at my dad's house every year, but this year I didn't get to have one because this witch didn't want me to, which is really disappointing. She went as far as to tell me that I wasn't welcome in their home anymore after only meeting me 3 times, and since then my contact with my dad has died down significantly. She's never been nice or even civil with me. Maybe if she were, I wouldn't care as much because I know that my dad has grown and can make his own decisions. But she's taking advantage of him because he's vulnerable and has been sad and lonely since my mom passed and is looking to fill the void somewhere. Long story short, I told him I wanted him at my wedding, but she couldn't come to either the wedding or the rehearsal because I didn't want her bad attitude to ruin my day. He got upset with this and it caused a minor argument, but he eventually folded saying that he wouldn't bring her, and I thought that was the end of it. However, yesterday they showed up to the rehearsal together. I was pissed as I had deliberately told him not to bring her and my reasoning for doing so. I didn't want drama, so I discreetly pulled him aside and told him that he could stay, but she needed to go. My dad tried to convince me to let her stay, but I told him we already hashed this out beforehand. He got mad and they ended up leaving. That night she texted me letting me know that my dad would not be walking me down the aisle and that it's only a result of my own immature actions. This obviously breaks my heart, because I love my dad with my whole heart, but when I called him back to ask, he confirmed what she said. I'm honestly depressed about the whole thing and regret it, but at the same time, there has to be a point when I stand up for myself against her. Am I the a-hole? Edit. The official ceremony starts in about an hour, and my uncle's gonna be walking me down the aisle. Oh, that's just gross. The age difference is pretty stark, but the real issue is your father's behavior, trying really hard to understand what he could possibly see in her, other than the obvious, that would be worth cutting his daughter out. Your dad is the a-hole, as his stepmom. Your dad has allowed her to marginalize you and cut out your relationship. It sounds like he's pretty set on burning this bridge. Normally, I would say it's not good to expressly exclude a significant other, but she's toxic as duck, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I would call your dad and tell him something like this. Dad, you will regret it if you are not at my wedding. This is my wedding, a very important time in my life. As my father, you should want to be there supporting me. Do you really want to look back on this day and remember that you chose to abandon me over a disagreement with someone you have known for 4 months? If you do not attend the wedding, our relationship will never recover. Think about all of this before you do something you will regret for the rest of your life. I, 20 male, currently live at home with my dad, 63 male, and stepmom, 52 female, while also taking online summer college classes. Since last summer, we all talked about our family vacation for this summer, including where we were going to go, how long, etc. I was rightfully excited, as they talked to me about if I would enjoy this place more than this place. At the end of June, around the 25th, they started to tell me that flights are over 1.5K, so they're trying to figure it out and trying to contact our dog watcher. We have 12 dogs, 7 German Shepherds, 1 Lab, 1 English Mastiff, 1 Pit Bull, a medium dog, and a small dog. Totally different issue within our family. Stepmom keeps rescuing dogs and bringing them home, even after being asked to stop. So they inform me we are going and all is well. Fast forward to July 3rd. They inform me that our dog watcher can no longer watch our dogs. No surprise, it is hell. And they tell me I am staying home to watch them and no longer coming on the trip. Keep in mind that 6 of these dogs are my stepmom's, with only 1 being mine, with 4 being boarded still leaves me with 8. I get very upset when they tell me this because I'm the only household member who will not be there. My sister, 18 female, is already out there waiting for them. So all of this really hurt my feelings, and after dropping them off at the airport, I cried all the way home. About a week into their trip, they called me asking me what I want from the Gucci store. The Gucci store after complaining about ticket costs? That one really set me off. My sister texts me asking how it's going, as she could tell I was annoyed on the phone when they called, and I'm honest with my sister and tell her I'm sad, along with angry with them. She informs me that she'll try to discuss it with them, and I thanked her. The next day she tells me that she indeed tried to discuss it with them, and said it wasn't right for them to leave me at home. Our stepmom, being her, started to get upset, saying, "Stop trying to make me feel guilty." For those who are curious, our stepmom does not like to be in the wrong in any situation. Even in the smallest things, she always has to be right. There is not a single argument you can win against her. After that, my sister told me she said that I was sad that they didn't take me, and her response to this was, "He's only sad he had to drive us to the airport and not able to play video games for the time." When she told me this, I again got upset and told myself I am never watching her dogs again or do any favors. I feel like my stepmom completely invalidated my feelings with that comment, and I am angry. So, would I be the a-hole if I were to get angry at my stepmom once I pick them up from the airport tonight? Dude, don't pick them up from the airport. This is some BS. You have a right to feel your feelings. What the hell is up with your dad for not saying anything? Not the a-hole. Not at all. Not the a-hole. Stepmom clearly arranged the situation so you had to stay home. It's the best of all worlds for her. You don't go and she even has free dog care. But the real a-hole here is Dad, who is completely devoid of a spine and enabled her. But I'll be honest with, choose carefully what hill you want to die on. This could quickly make your current living situation unsustainable. Act smart. Not the a-hole. 11 ducking dogs? I'd do research and ask dog watchers how much they would charge to watch 11 dogs for 2 weeks. And when your stepmom gets home, present her with a bill for that amount. If they are going to the Gucci store, they can afford a dog watcher. Also, if she refuses to pay, it'd be a shame if the dog somehow got a hold of her new Gucci stuff. Just saying. Update. They got home and saw me being distant. They asked me what was wrong, and I chose the path of peace and said nothing. I got my dad alone and asked him to talk tomorrow. I decided to go spend the night at a friend's tonight. Upon letting my dad know I was leaving, he asked me what was wrong, and I got choked up a little and told him that I felt hurt by them not taking me on the trip. He responded with a defensive tone and said, "You had school." I then explained that it's optional attendance classes for the summer, and I didn't actually need to be in class. I then said that it's just one excuse after another why I couldn't go, with the first being that the ticket was too expensive. Then got a slap in the face when you called me from the Gucci store. He argued and said it was an outlet, not an actual store, and we didn't even spend as much as your ticket. And now you're bawling. And I asked, "What do you mean by that?" And he didn't respond, so I left and said we'd finish this conversation tomorrow. Update 2. Just spoke with my father and it went really well. He understood where I was coming from and we had a great talk. He even brought up the trip he promised, and he said it'd be a him and I trip alone. He said he was very grateful for me watching the dogs, as it saved him a lot of money, and said it won't go unnoticed. I also talked to him about me thinking about moving out because of the mental toll the dogs have taken, and he said he completely understood. He also felt my pain with the dogs, and said we can't live like this, and promised he was going to try to get it under control. I also voiced my concern with my stepmom not listening to my feelings, and how it didn't feel like she was grateful I watched the dogs, which he agreed. At the end of it, my father hugged me and told me he never wants me to feel this way, and to always talk to him from now on. I've never felt comfortable talking to my parents about my feelings, but now I feel comfortable talking to him. I did ask for an apology from my stepmom, and my father said he will inform her how I felt. I expect an apology from her within the next couple days, as that usually comes after he speaks to her. 15 years ago, I, 19 at the time, dated this guy, Mark, 25 at the time. I got pregnant after a few months with him. I wasn't ready for a kid, so I gave Mark full custody of our daughter, Natalie, now 14, and I'd visit a couple times a year. Mark is from a good family and already had a great job when we first met. He quickly climbed up the ladder and is able to give Natalie a very privileged life. When Natalie was 2, he met Amy and they got married when Natalie was 4. Natalie and Amy have always been very close, and Amy is very involved in her life. She's room mom, head of the PTA. She was the soccer coach, the softball coach, head of the theater guild, and found a way to be part of everything Natalie was involved in. She also drives Natalie to school early in the morning so they could stop for breakfast first, and she packs Natalie's lunch every day. And not something like peanut butter and jelly and a bag of chips. She makes Natalie steak or quiche or lettuce wraps with a side of salad with homemade dressing, fresh fruit, and homemade dessert. Natalie doesn't understand that the only reason Amy is able to do all of this is because she doesn't work, and she doesn't have to do much around the house. They have a cleaning service come multiple times a week. I recently got an apartment close to Mark and Amy's house, and I have Natalie 1 week out of the month now. It was pretty hard for both of us at first. Natalie had a hard time understanding that we're not stopping for breakfast before school, and the best thing she's going to get from me for lunch is a turkey sandwich, cookie from the grocery store I work at, a bag of chips, and an apple. She was also not used to the fact that she has to clean up after herself. Natalie was here last week, and we were already not getting along because she had an event at school that week that she told Amy about and not me, because she refused to clean her room, and because I found out that she's been throwing away the lunches I make for her and asking Amy to bring her lunch since she started staying with me. She had a sore throat on Wednesday, and I let her stay home from school, then started to get ready to leave for work. When I was about to leave, she made a comment that Amy always stays home with her when she doesn't feel well. I said it's a sore throat and she'll be fine, but she got an attitude and said that I should try to be a good mom like Amy. We ended up arguing, and I told her that I can't compete with Amy and that if she can't handle that, she needs to go back to her dad's house. So she called Amy to pick her up, and I haven't heard from her since. I was supposed to take her out for dinner this Saturday, but now she doesn't want to go, so I wanted to know if I was the a-hole. Yes, the a-hole. Your daughter may have your DNA, but you aren't her mother. She has been through a dramatic, and possibly traumatic, change when you stepped back into her life. Because of that, your expectations for this relationship aren't realistic. She is 14, and you literally abandoned her at birth. You have a golden opportunity to get to know the young woman she is becoming, but you have turned this situation into a competition between you and her mother. You cannot blame her at all for not wanting to spend time with you. I do not understand how OP turned it into a competition. Given the example provided in the post, what was she supposed to do? Miss work to stay with Amy and lose money and a day off for a non-emergency? Just because her stepmother doesn't work and could actually stay with Amy in such situations, because she, A, is not employed, B, doesn't rely on the money from work. There was no win for OP there. The kid literally demanded stuff OP cannot provide, like breakfast at cafes, because she cannot afford it on a single income, presumably. The top comment contains no actual advice of what she was supposed to do, apart from generic do better. Edit. Just to clarify, there are different issues here. OP is not the a-hole for the situation described in the post, and that's what I refer to in this comment. However, she appears to be a yes the a-hole for forcefully inserting herself into the life of this teenager by fighting Natalie's parents in court for custody, instead of simply agreeing to visitation rights. All this presumably in response to Amy wanting to adopt. Not the a-hole. I think you need to full stop and try to imagine how you'd feel if you were your daughter. She has been given a very nice life by her father and stepmom. You were rarely in the picture, and that's when it suited you. Now, you decide to be a mom, and you think this human who you birthed should be so happy to have you in her life. I wouldn't. I would be pissed if I had to leave the comfort of my home to go stay with a stranger for a week every month, simply because she decides to move close enough so that it's convenient for her. You've uprooted her. You've not helped her adapt. You expect her to be happy you're around, and you're mad because she isn't. You pull her away from her comfort for an entire week and take her to a place that's clearly less than she is accustomed to, and you're mad because she's not happy. She's 14. 14-year-olds aren't happy anyway, and you're giving her way more reasons to be unhappy. I was born into a pretty patriarchal country. I moved to the US at 12, and my dad has always been pretty liberal, but I witnessed some weird stuff growing up. My father is very wealthy and always had trophy girlfriends, and was a huge womanizer before he married his current wife, Leela. When he met Leela, she was married with 2 kids, and her husband owed him a lot of money. He said my dad could date and duck Leela if he forgave the debt. Leela immediately was talking about marriage, how she would be the perfect wife, and she was beyond obsessed with my dad's money. like walking around the house touching things and giggling, and playing dress-up with my mom's jewelry. He ended up leaving my mom for her. I do think he really loves her. Like, I hate it and it grosses me out, but he was just suddenly happy all the time. So, Leela definitely begged him to marry her. I recently got engaged to my long-term partner. I am the one who proposed. Because, well, I got sick of waiting, and he is awful at that stuff anyway. We had a family dinner to celebrate, and Leela was making jokes about how weird America is. Why would I propose? That is so unromantic, blah blah blah. To be fair, it wasn't just her. My siblings were joining in. I told her to stop. I told my dad to make her stop. But my dad always has the attitude that we are mean to Leela, so it is fine. Finally, I announced to the table that Leela begged my dad to marry her. Begged to the point everyone was laughing at her, even him, so she shouldn't be talking. Leela began to cry and stormed off. My dad yelled at me about how I have no idea what I'm talking about, and no one can make him do anything. He wouldn't have married her if he didn't want to. Leela refused to come back because she thinks my future in-laws think that my dad didn't love her. Now, I might be a bit of a jerk because I know all of her self-image is wrapped up in being the perfect wife and him loving her. My dad is still furious with me. He said my dad could date and duck Leela if he forgave the debt. Am I the only one who can't even really focus on the rest of the post after this one statement just being thrown in so casually? What the actual duck? Regardless, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I wouldn't be taking marriage advice or criticism from your dad and Leela anyway. Gross.